The streets of ancient Jerusalem are thick with dust and the sound of trumpets. The Ark of the Covenant is finally returning home, and the entire city has surrendered to a state of total euphoria. At the center of the celebration, King David has cast aside his heavy royal robes. Wearing only a simple linen garment, he is dancing before the ark with absolute, uninhibited energy. High above the noise, the atmosphere changes. Queen Michal, the daughter of King Saul, stands at a dark palace window, looking down at her husband. The biblical account records a jarring reaction. As she watches David lead the nation in worship, she despises him in her heart. This is the same woman who once risked her life to save David from her father's assassins. To understand why she now views his devotion with such bitterness, we have to look at the traumatic years of silence that led to this moment. The relationship began with genuine affection. In a rare scriptural detail, 1 Samuel 18 explicitly states that Michal loved David, the young shepherd warrior who had captured the nation's heart. King Saul weaponized that love. He offered Michal's hand in marriage, but demanded a gruesome dowry, 100 Philistine foreskins. This diagram shows the reality of the request. Saul was forcing David into a suicidal mission, hoping the Philistines would do the king's dirty work for him. David survived and brought back double the requirement, forcing Saul to honor the marriage. But the union brought no peace. Saul's paranoia grew until he finally sent messengers to assassinate David in his own bed at dawn. Michal acted decisively to protect her husband. She lowered David through a window to escape, then used a household idol and goat hair to trick her father's guards into thinking he was still asleep. This vast, empty valley illustrates the isolation that followed. David fled into the wilderness to survive, but the biblical narrative records no attempt by David to return for Michal or take her with him. Michal was left behind to face her father's fury alone. She saved the man she loved, only to find herself abandoned by him. Years passed, and Saul effectively erased Michal's first marriage by giving her to another man, Palti, son of Laish. While Michal lived this quiet, forced life with Palti, David's power was rising. He was building an army, securing a kingdom, and marrying multiple other women. This ancient engraved text reflects the cold, contractual nature of royal demands. After Saul's death, David demanded Michal's return, not out of a desire for reconciliation, but to strengthen his political claim to Saul's former throne. The extraction was traumatic. Michal was ripped away from Palti, who followed her down the road weeping until David's generals ordered him to turn back. Michal was treated as royal property, being transferred between households. These palace foundations represent the sterile reality she entered. She was no longer David's only love. She was one of many wives in a crowded court, a political asset rather than a partner. By the day the ark arrived, Michal was a woman whose life had been shaped by the tactical decisions of the men around her. She was hardened, used, and profoundly hurt. We return to the window. Michal looks down and sees the man she saved, the man who later abandoned her and eventually reclaimed her like a piece of furniture, dancing with joy. Her personal trauma makes his spiritual devotion look like a performance. She cannot separate the man who hurt her from the God he is celebrating, and her resentment projects directly onto his worship. When David returns to the palace, she confronts him with biting sarcasm. She mocks his dignity, accusing the king of Israel of shamelessly exposing himself before common servant girls. David's rebuke is immediate. He declares that his worship was for the Lord, not for the approval of his household. He would rather be humble and contemptible in the eyes of the world than compromise his devotion to God. The silence that follows is definitive. Scripture notes that Michal had no child until the day of her death, a consequence that ended her lineage and left her isolated within the very palace she once helped David secure. Michal's human grievances were entirely valid. She had every reason to be angry with Saul and every reason to be hurt by David's neglect. The challenge for the modern believer lies in how we handle that valid pain. Michal allowed her human bitterness to block her participation in a sacred moment, turning her into a critic of worship rather than a participant. Michal's story serves as a warning. It reminds us that while our wounds are real, they cannot be allowed to grow into a barrier between us and God.
If you enjoyed watching this video, do like the video and please subscribe to Jesus Tell Tales channel for more such videos in the future.